We will call to order this meeting of the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency. It's November 10th, 2021. Will you all join me in the salute to the flag? Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Director Bill De La Pena, absent. Director Huffer?
Yes.
Director Jones, absent. Vice Chair Nichols?
Yes.
And Chair Skay.
Here, thank you. Do we have no public comments at this time? So we'll go to the consent calendar, and these are the minutes from our September 8th meeting. Any additions or changes? Yes, Director Huffer.
I'll move approval of last meeting's minutes.
And I'll second that.
All right, and hearing no other comment, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No nays or abstentions. Thank you. So our first action item is our board schedule for 2022. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. So I passed over a very important item. This is the introduction of our new supervising park ranger, Corey Prindle. Corey, do you want to step up and say a few words? And Matt, would you like to introduce him? Please.
Again, finally. And I want to give a little history of what happened in COSCA. About 8 years ago, we had a supervising ranger that retired. And we took that position and kind of subdivided it so that we would have a lower position called a lead ranger who was running the crew. And we were able to create a new position called an open space tech. So we were able to expand the ranger unit just a little bit at that time and took advantage of that retirement. I've been handling the personnel issues and budgeting and a lot of the upper stuff. But we finally made the case this past couple of years to move from more of a land acquisition organization to a land management organization, and that's we've got a good momentum going, and we want to keep it going. So we went on a recruitment for a supervising ranger. We had quite a few applicants, a few that were qualified. We had a good interview process, and the decision was made to go with Corey Prindle and let him tell you about himself.
Thank you, Matt. Go ahead, Corey.
Good evening, board. As Matt was saying, my name is Corey Prindle, the new supervising ranger. A little bit about my background. From San Diego, born and raised. While I was there, I did get my degree in recreation parks and tourism management. I also have 13 years working in that field under my belt as well. 8 years of that working as a park ranger. 2 years of that is working as a senior park ranger at a place called Rancho Penasquitos Adobe. It's a joint powers, large open space preserve, working with a couple agencies down there. And then I also worked 2 years as a supervising park ranger at Agua Caliente and Vallecito Regional Parks. Those are two large, very busy campgrounds, southern half of Anza Borrego Desert, but it's San Diego County campgrounds. From there, I did thankfully get a chance to move on up here. I'm very excited to be working with everyone in this district and putting some of those skills to use out here. Very excited to finally get started. This week is my first. What questions do you guys have for me?
Thank you. Board members, any questions of Mr. Prindle?
Sure, I've got a question. When my daughter went down to San Diego, she didn't want to leave. So I'm just wondering, why would you ever want to leave San Diego? I didn't know that we were that much appealing, but what's the contrast, or what do you look forward to?
Like I said, I did have the benefit of being born there. A lot of people in San Diego kind of move there. I got a good share of it. I kind of did everything I possibly could there. Enjoyed it, was ready for something a little bit different. In my opinion, especially like this area, it's similar. but different in ways that'll at least keep me excited. So that's what got me out here. Just a little bit of change of scenery, I would say.
Very good.
And one more question. Since you're familiar with the Joint Powers Authority arrangement and multiple agencies, what were the challenges that you faced with doing that, and how do you expect to apply that in this role?
It depends on a couple different agencies I worked with. So in Rancho Penasquitos, I worked with the city. So accounting, working with the city, some of the difficulties we faced was managing a trail. We had about 3 miles of this trail. The city had 3 miles as well, but they had a different upkeep schedule. Some of the difficulties in their management, they just made different decisions than we did. The way we kind of dealt with that or made it more accessible to the public is the county took on the lion's share of the role, kind of made it more accessible on all the city access points, and the city did what it could to back us up as much as it could with its work schedule, which was varied. So it just kind of became more of a county face to it, and then the city did a lot of work with us behind the scenes.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Corey, and we're very pleased you're with us. Yeah, I'm sure you're discovering, there's a tremendous diversity in habitats and constituencies and user groups in our area. So you've got big challenges ahead, but I know you'll do very well. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Yeah. All right. Now we will go to action item 6A, the 2022 COSCA Board of Directors meeting schedule. Mr. Stark? Do we have consensus on the meeting dates?
Yes, I've reviewed the schedule. It looks good to me, so I'll support that.
Okay.
I've got no issues with it myself, so.
You're a second then, Mr. Heffernan?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, if no other discussion, all in favor of the meeting schedule for 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good, no nays or abstentions.
For the benefit of our listening public, I guess my microphone was not on when I announced those dates.
Oh, please
I'll
repeat
reread
them.
them.
then, Mr. Stark.
The approved board meeting dates now are February 9th, May 11th, September 14th, and November 9th.
Okay, very good. Next is the open space acquisition update for 2020-2021.
Thank you very much. I have a very brief PowerPoint presentation for you tonight on this. COSCA Open Space, the last time we updated the board on COSCA Open Space acquisitions was back in February of 2020. So we're circling back at this point to talk about acquisitions we've completed since that time. Since February of 2020, COSCA has acquired a total of 92.25 acres of land for permanent protection as open space. The individual transactions were listed in your staff report, but I will show you a map here. These are relatively small parcels and scattered, so you'll see there's a couple of breakout boxes. But in our Dos Vientos area and Potrero Ridge open space area, we have the light green ones kind of in the middle of the screen. We picked up about 58 acres there from Leonard Homes. That was a part of a development compact. And that one had been kind of waiting in the wings for a long time, and we were able to work with Leonard Homes to complete that project. They were very helpful in that process. Up on the top, we have in the Conejo Canyons open space area. That's the area up behind Sage Mountain. So we were able to consummate that. That's also a development related dedication of open space. And then over in this Southern Ridge area, these are up sort of where, these are infills around the Rasnow donation properties. These are relatively small, but one of them did play a critical role in providing space for a trail reroute. So it was an important project. The two over there in Skyline filled the last two holes in that little section. So that kind of completed that area up there. With that, I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Questions of Mr. Stark? Yes, Director Heffer.
Am I remembering, Brian, the Dos Vientos property there was some relatively minor things that needed to be corrected by the property owner before it could be turned over to open space?
Yes, that was the case on that property. The agreement for accepting the property required some light restoration work, and there had been a bicycle, like a BMX bike track, put on that property. So Leonard assisted with the removal of that, and we did erosion control practices to put the place back together again. And there was also a lot line manipulation there, because there was a section of the property that contained a road and a Cal-Am water tank.
Right.
And so that area was carved off and left with Leonard's, because that's got infrastructure and drainage structures and water tanks on it. So non-open space uses.
Good, thank you.
And that was the biggest parcel,
Mm-hmm.
parcels, okay, 57 acres.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Director Nichols.
Thank you for the report, Brian. I did have a question. You mentioned, in the wings, things were out there. I know one of your endeavors when you came on board was to kind of gather all these loose chicks and bring them all into the hen house, so to speak. And I'm just wondering, is there more out there to gather up that's either, to one entity or another, or like this one was still under the guise of the developer, or maybe still with the city or CRPD that's supposed to go to COSCA? I just want to know how that process is going.
So there's a couple different processes that cover all those areas. In terms of projects where a dedication was made and waiting for certain actions to accept it, we don't have any more of those outstanding. There's some that are still in process with the developers. I mean, hasn't been formalized yet, like over in the SDA area up in there, and those will come at a later date. We have identified all the remaining parcels that are either owned by the city or CRPD that were intended to be passed on to COSCA. We did transfer about maybe 40 plus parcels last year. These didn't show up in these statistics because they were already protected open space that COSCA was already managing. We'll be going back to the city council in January for transfer approvals on additional properties. And then there's some that have been approved already that haven't been transferred. So we anticipate we'll have all the approvals. They'll be coming to you in the February meeting for acceptance, and they'll be approved for transfer from the city in January. So hopefully not too long after that, we'll produce the deeds and be able to sort of complete that project.
Okay, thanks, because I knew there was quite a challenge before you that I didn't know if you felt you were done with that or still more to do, but I appreciate your update on that.
Fortunately, we have it together, and we are still reaching out to landowners now, and we're in negotiations over a couple other properties. Nothing definitive yet, but activity still continues on acquisitions in key priority locations.
Thank you.
Mr. Stark, of the APNs listed here, were these all dedications or donations, or were some purchase?
The Southern Ridge parcel, and the two Southern Ridge parcels and the Skyline parcels were purchases, and the Dos Vientos and Conejo Canyons were dedications.
Okay, thank you. All right, this does not require action. This is a receive and file, and I appreciate the update. It's very impressive. I mean, it really can making those connections. Very good. Let's see, we'll get to our exciting volunteer corps activity verbal report. Is that you, Mr. Kuba?
I didn't get a slide on that. Is there a slide on that? Sorry about that. We have a
Oh, okay.
slideshow to share with you then. Oh, sorry about that. I guess all I had to do is click the button here. So, program hours for September and October, 80 reports and 119 hours on Trail Watch in our adopted trails, 57 reports and 133 hours. People are getting out on the trails and they're reporting things back to us and keeping us plenty busy.
Very good. Any questions on that? Yay, volunteers. That's
Yeah,
Great.
very appreciate them very much.
Okay, ranger operations and maintenance. Mr. Kuba.
Yes, and I do have a PowerPoint
I
presentation.
do have a PowerPoint.
Last couple of weeks, the Rangers have been working really hard on preparing for the new supervising ranger to come on and some changes that are going to be hopefully happening with our housing situation. So a lot of that's been happening. If you've been out near Lake Eleanor, you've noticed that the fencing has changed dramatically out there. We are working on being able to maintain the dam spillway in a better way. And the difficulty there is that it's a 2-lane state highway, and in order to do anything out there, you pretty much have to shut down the highway, which involves having CHP out there and Caltrans, and it's just a very difficult thing to do. So we came up with the idea of changing the fencing there so that we could do a very, very temporary, even a traffic slowdown, and be able to back our stake side up to the spillway. Go ahead, Brian. And so this is a sliding gate that's been installed, and it actually worked very well. And the dam spillway, next slide.
Sorry.
It's okay. So we've been, a contract crew and our two of our seasonals have been cutting down the tulies there to clean out the spillway and hopefully make it more efficient. Go ahead, Brian. And it's a lot of biomass out there, a lot of biomass. So it's been trucks and trucks and trucks, but we haven't had to shut down the highway. So we've saved a lot of money on that. And so this was a good decision and a good thought. Go ahead, next. We did a little urban trail repair. I just wanted to show this slide because we do get this little trail outlet. It's over near the terminus of the west side of Green Meadow at the Cameron House. And if you ever go there, there's always somebody walking down that street. And this is the only way in and out of that little street towards the Cameron House. And one of the neighbors requested, hey, can you do something about it? So the Rangers got together and they threw some stairs in there, and it stabilized the little hillside. There's no more spillage of soil down there, and it was a good little project. But I love the idea that here's this open space trail and a house and a street right there. That's us. Go ahead, Brian. So this is the Rancho Potrero open space. This is a project that's been going on out there with the amphitheater. This is where on the Olympia Farms site, and we put in some of the most beautiful oak trees I've ever seen. It was an instant forest. Highly recommend you walk up there and check it out. But anytime you get to see big machines doing stuff is always fun. So I had to send videos to my grandkids. But the trees are wonderful. The whole area just has a totally different feel to it. And it was really a great project, and it's going to have a lot of good use. Go ahead, next. Well, thank you. Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Grant Project. And that's the amphitheater that turned out beautifully. And I am pushing to have this kind of design on another park, Sopwith, hopefully. That would be it'd be so beautiful to have that up there. There's the instant forest, and the crews are out there finishing up and sweeping, so by next week, it should be like it's always going to be. We've had a couple small fires. One of them was out at Rancho Potrero. There was two little small half-acre spot fires, and then this one off of Herbs Road behind our Oakbrook Service Center the other night, a week ago plus. They weren't sure how this one started, but luckily the winds were with us, and it was put out very quickly. Okay, so I'm showing this one because everybody goes to a park, you put your trash in a trash can or recycle can, and you never think about it, how they get there. But we have to buy them in bulk, and they come in a big truck, and we have to paint them brown for open space, and then they get dispersed over a couple months. It takes a while to get them back out there. So we're replacing the cans. You'll see some bright new shiny brown cans out there. And the sunset pictures. But because everybody remember that lightning storm from a month ago? It was spectacular. And so one of the rangers just happened to be out on the mesa and got that photo, and the next one is also spectacular. So
Wow.
with Lizard Rock in the background, it doesn't get much better than that.
Fantastic.
I'm available
Beautiful.
for questions if necessary.
Beautiful. Any questions or comments? Yes,
Yes.
Director Nichols.
Thanks for the update, Matt. Always appreciate hearing and seeing what's happening out there in the field. You know, we only get to the field so often, and you guys are just like scattered all over the place. With Lake Eleanor, I know that's kind of an out-of-the-way place. It's not really publicly accessible. And I just was curious, as you move into trying to take care of places like that, you know, what do you observe as far as, you know, activity that has been taking place there, whether they should be or not? And how do you, you know, track something where there's really no trails and yet you still kind of have to monitor? I'm just kind of curious. That's kind of, it was kind of a one-off, not many places like that. Just curious how that works.
Well, Lake Eleanor, it has, it has good security around it. We have very few people that actually get into it, so there's not a lot of bad activity there. I know it's a very attractive nuisance, but because of the fencing, and we do have to do a lot of fence maintenance out there. But yeah, that's kind of the answer for that one.
Okay. All right.
Probably helpful that there's really no place to pull over. Is
True.
hard for doing the maintenance, but sort of limits looky-loos and people trying to get in.
That's a very scary road to walk down. When we are going to open that gate, it's we will sometimes, if we're just walking there, we'll have a ranger truck with blinky lights down the road so that we have safety going in there.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Director Heffer.
Yeah, also, related to the lake project, you mentioned all the biomass that had to be removed, and I know we have a lot of projects all around that you have large quantities, and you've probably told us before, but where does all that go?
We have a 40-yard green bin at the Waverly Horse Arena, so all of our green waste goes to there and gets composted. And so we probably filled that up at least once with this project.
Very good.
Okay, and the lightning storm that you showed, I'm assuming that was I think we sent it off to you guys. Someone got a picture at the soccer fields with lightning like between two of the light standards or something, so.
I didn't see that. Oh, wow. Cool.
Incredible.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The parents said, "Why do we have to leave?" Here we go.
Yeah. Safety first. And the Rancho Potrero upgrades, I mean, it looks, Tom Harrod sent me photos and I was just amazed. I said, those are really big trees. I bet you needed a crane. And he said, yeah. And the crane operator said, these are blanking big trees.
It's amazing when you're operating a machine and you just think it's just a machine and it does stuff. But you can tell how heavy something is when you're going to move it. And even something like that, he picked up one and he goes, this is a really heavy one.
Yeah.
And he was very cautious and he tested it a couple times before he actually got it off the ground and moved it.
it's just a spectacular improvement, getting those oaks up there, more shade, more biodiversity, more carbon sequestration, all those good things.
Yeah.
And the amphitheater looks lovely.
Amphitheater's beautiful.
It's
I
going
love
to be
it.
a great spot for outdoor ed and other programs.
Definitely.
Great. Anything else for Mr. Kuba? Thank you so much, Matt. Let's see, do we have any follow-up items? Mr. Friedel?
Yes, thank you, Chair Skay, members of the board. I just wanted to make a few kind of COSCA adjacent CRPD sort of announcements. On the 23rd of October, we have done the groundbreaking for Conejo Creek Southwest, and I mention it not only because it's really cool and it's a new park, but the city of Thousand Oaks very graciously donated $1.5 million towards the $4 million project. So an opportunity to say thanks to our friends and partners at the city. Another Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center, so not at the Rancho Potrero Olympia Farms site, but actually the equestrian center itself. CRPD planning staff have been out there having a couple community meetings about various upcoming improvements. The most notable, or the one getting the most interest, is some lighting improvements at the arenas. And so there's an opportunity to kind of see the lighted arena very similar to what we're talking about at Ride-On's existing facility, which is at 401 Ronell Court in Newbury Park. It's the Walnut Grove Equestrian Center, and they're going to be there tomorrow night from 5 to 6. So if anyone wants to come by and see that existing equestrian operation and the lighting that's associated with it, they are more than welcome to come by and check it out. Brian McQueenie and Ride-On will be there kind of hosting anyone who wants to check it out. And then just finally wanted to mention tomorrow is Veterans Day, and as always on the 11th at 11, we will be having a brief ceremony at the Veterans Pond, right near Creekside at Conejo Creek North. So Conejo Creek North at Creekside will have a Veterans Day ceremony starting at 11.
Great.
With that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Friedel. Any comments or questions? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to board member comments. Any comments for the good of the order? Yes, Director Nichols.
I got a couple of questions. The kind of just a follow-up. We've approved some habitat restoration funding, and then also some outreach for fire safety. And I just was wondering if there's any updates on those two activities, how things are progressing in those two fronts.
Well, on the habitat and the invasive plant management plan project, we're expecting early drafts of the invasive plant management plan in December, and we'll be turning those around. We expect that to be finished sometime in January. And that will outline and recommend project areas where our restoration funds will achieve the most value. The work on the fire outreach continues. That contract's been extended until February to wrap, so they can continue doing some of more of the home assessments, and they've added educational webinars to continue that project too. And we're partnering with a couple other agencies on that too. I expect to come back in February to the board with our thoughts on what we'll do in terms of the wildfire outreach in the coming year.
Okay, thank you. Then just a follow-up when Matt Kuba was talking about the transition from acquisition to management, and hence the need to expand our ranger force. I just was curious from your perspective, Brian, what's either in the works or in the forefront, the near future for management activities? I would certainly include the habitat restoration as part of that, as I know it's involved. But as far as you look to the future in the next year or two, where do you see that emphasis being kind of extended when it comes to land management activities?
Well, you've seen our first action, and that is bringing on Corey to help organize the Ranger Corps. We'll also be adding additional Rangers that we expect will probably join, in the late spring or early summer of next year. Our higher priorities are working on invigorating our volunteer programs, and hopefully we get a break from pandemic to where we can start mobilizing our community. There's always been a lot of demand for the community, from the community, to pitch in and help with the management of our open spaces, and we're very excited about getting them back involved. And then with expanding the Ranger force, we hope that we could just be in more than one place at one time, spend more time patrolling the open spaces, interacting with the public, and doing more of what the Rangers do on a daily basis. We also anticipate incorporating, catching up a little bit on some deferred maintenance projects too, and really kind of a planning process over the next year to lay out, some of those priorities too. And we're, with the expansion of the numbers of people, we're building out management systems and that involve new computer software and ways of organizing our workforce. So it'll take a little while to completely manifest, but I think people will start seeing the difference here pretty soon.
Okay, and would appreciate the update on the personnel, because I know that's been a little lacking over the years, and I know this will certainly help with that. But I was thinking more on the lines of, now that you got people, what are they going to do? What do you actually consider is, when it comes to land management as opposed to acquisition and maintenance? What is land management when it comes to COSCA?
Well, land management is two basic categories. One's your basic infrastructure, and that's managing your fencing and other, plumbing and the physical facilities that we have. But I think what people will notice, maybe at the larger scale, will be the habitat management. We'll be initiating pretty large scale habitat restoration projects, mostly that start with a strong invasive plant management program, where we will, our goal here is the transition, vegetation regimes in certain places that are not providing the types of habitat that our local wildlife need to thrive, and knocking out the invasive plants, bringing back native plants, and, actually creating more physical habitat for our local wildlife. And along with the planning comes, where do we do this? And, having it be strategic, so our funds are well spent, looking at continuity of habitats, so trying to connect rich habitat areas that already exist. But if we can work in that middle zone and fix the area in between, we have more contiguous wildlife habitat, and that's one approach to creating real value for our wildlife. But we're still going to be doing a ton of trail work. I mean, that's, with the 150 miles of trails, it's not like we're going to just do something else now. I just think what people will see is an even higher level of the quality work that our rangers do every day anyway. More of the good stuff.
Thanks. Appreciate the contemporaneous response to my question. But I know you're working in the wings and keeping this together. I know once we get the staff full up and going, we'll see some of the fruits of that effort. But appreciate your keeping things coordinated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stark. So that ends our regular agenda, unless you had a comment, Mr. Hafford? Go ahead.
Just very briefly, Jim had mentioned the groundbreaking that we had at Conejo Creek Southwest, and the contribution that the city made to that several years ago. The city also contributed to the completing the Sapway trails, and although it's not technically open space, it's surrounded by open space, and quite honestly, it feels like open space over there. And a week or so ago, the CRPD board had a chance to see several of the user groups and the radio-controlled gliders and disc golf, but I mentioned the illegal or unapproved bicycle bicycle jumps over in Dos Vientos, and hopefully they're not going to need to do that anymore, because one of the sites they demonstrated was the bicycle spot at Sapwe Trails. So hopefully the open space no longer will have to have those.
It's already made a difference, actually.
Very good. Just have a sign, don't recreate here, go here. An approved location. Very good. Well, we will go to a closed session, and Mr. Hare, did you want to announce the closed session?
Yep, thank you. So this is a conference with legal counsel. It's potential initiation of litigation, encroachment onto COSCA property. It's one case pursuant to Government Code Sections 54956.9 and 54956.95. And there will be nothing to report. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Well, then we will adjourn to our regular meeting on February 8th. And should we stay here, or are we going into the next room?
Whatever your pleasure is.
And just have the